We invented the 2% inflation rule in New Zealand. So here's my honest opinion on who was the better president: Donald Trump or John F. Kennedy, or why it doesn't matter at all. Who actually ran the better American economy? Let's put them on a scoreboard. Growth. Under Kennedy, the American economy expanded at roughly 5.5% a year. Under Trump, in 2025, it grew about 2%. Kennedy wins. Inflation. Under Kennedy, prices rose about 1% a year, and they stayed there. In 2026, the official figure is 3.3% and climbing. Kennedy wins. The national debt. When Kennedy sat in the Oval Office, federal debt was under half the size of the economy and shrinking. Today it is bigger than the entire economy. $39 trillion. Kennedy wins. A house. In 1962, the typical American home cost about $18,000, against a median income of $6,000. 3 years of pay. Today, the median house is north of $400,000, against a median income of about $88,000. Nearly 5 years of pay, and that's before the bank laughs at you. Kennedy wins. Kennedy wins. Kennedy wins again. So that's it. JFK takes it, on almost every line. Case closed. Except here's the question that should be nagging at you. Why does a guy at the bottom of the Pacific care, who won an American economic contest? Because down here, dunking on America is basically a national sport. But it's a bit rich. We are a colony. Historically a British one, sure. There's still a Union Jack tucked in the corner of our flag, for the nitpickers. But these days, culturally and economically, we are an American outpost, a polite little one at the bottom of the world. Our films, our slang, our music, even our politics, a small-scale cover version of a country 50 times our size. Economically, we are Hobbiton doing an impression of an empire. And I pay for this economy whether I get a vote or not. My mortgage moves every time the Federal Reserve clears its throat. So I went digging into America's numbers, and I found something that should bother you a lot more than it bothers me. Kennedy wins every line on that scoreboard. And it doesn't matter. It tells you almost nothing. Because the economy he was being measured against doesn't exist anymore. And neither do the rulers we just used to measure it. That scoreboard I just read you, every single number on it, has been quietly redefined since Kennedy died. Same words, same labels, completely different machines underneath. And once you see how, you can never trust a headline economic number the same way again. So let me show you the trick. 3 numbers, 3 rulers, and every one of them has been bent. Start with inflation. In 1962, when they said 1% inflation, they meant something brutally simple. They took a fixed basket of goods, the actual things a family bought, the same basket this year as last year, and they checked the price. That was it. Then, in 1996, a panel called the Boskin Commission looked at how America measured inflation and decided it was running too hot. Their fix changed the recipe in 3 ways, and one of them is genuinely something to behold. It's called substitution. The idea is this: if the price of beef goes up, you don't keep buying beef, you switch to chicken. So the commission reasoned, the index shouldn't fully count the beef price rise, because you adjusted. Read that back slowly. The official measure of your cost of living now assumes that when something gets too expensive, you simply buy the cheaper thing, and it calls that flat prices. Your standard of living quietly drops, and the ruler records no change. They added a second adjustment for quality, and a third for new products, and the combined effect, by their own maths, was to knock more than a full percentage point off the measured inflation rate every single year. So when Kennedy's economy posted 1% and Trump's economy posts 3.3%, you are not comparing two temperatures. You are comparing two thermometers, and the modern one was rebuilt, deliberately, to read lower. Plenty of economists will tell you it understates what households actually feel, especially on housing. The ruler got shorter, the room looks bigger. Now unemployment. On the scoreboard, this was Trump's one clean win. Kennedy left office around 5.5%. Trump in 2026 is sitting near 4.4%. Lower is better, so Trump takes the line. Except the official rate, the one on every headline, only counts you as unemployed if you have actively looked for a job in the last 4 weeks. Stop looking, because there's nothing out there, because you've given up, and something remarkable happens. You don't become unemployed, you vanish. You drop out of the top of the fraction and the bottom at the same time, and the unemployment rate goes down, people quit looking for work, and the statistic improves. There is a broader measure, it's called U6, and it counts the discouraged, and the people stuck in part-time work, who desperately want full-time. In February 2026, that number was 7.9%. Nearly double the figure you were sold, so which one is Trump's real rate? 4.4%. Or nearly 8%. They're both true, they're just measuring different things and only one of them makes the front page. And now the big one. Gross domestic product, the headline number for the whole economy. When Kennedy talked about growth, he was talking about a country that made things. In the early 1960s, manufacturing was around a quarter of the entire American economy, and roughly 1 in 4 workers made physical objects for a living. Steel, cars, machines. Growth meant the factories ran harder, and more stuff came out the other end. Today, manufacturing is about 10% of the economy, and fewer than 1 in 12 Americans work in it. The single biggest slice of the economy now is something called the FIRE sector: finance, insurance, and real estate, more than 1/5 of everything. In early 2025, finance and property contributed more to American GDP than making things did. So when you hear the economy grew 2%, ask grew at what? In 1962, that meant more was built. In 2026, it increasingly means assets got repriced. Stocks went up, houses got more expensive, and an expensive house counts as a richer country, even as it counts as a poorer family. Same word, growth. Two completely different engines. Kennedy's scoreboard was measuring a workshop. Trump's scoreboard is measuring a casino. And we keep pretending it's the same game. If watching the people who run the scoreboard quietly redraw the lines is the kind of thing you want to understand before it shows up in your own life, then this is the channel for it. Subscribing costs nothing, and the ruler bending never stops. But stay with me, because here's where it stops being abstract. Forget the indexes for a second. Let's do the test no commission can rig. Take $100 to the year 1962. Gas is 31 cents a gallon, so $100 is more than 300 gallons of petrol. The minimum wage is $1.15 an hour, and a single income on that wage could carry a household, a car, and a mortgage on that $18,000 house. One earner, a house, in a few years of pay. Now take $100 to 2026. The federal minimum wage is $7.25, and it has not moved since 2009. Petrol has spiked past $4.50 a gallon this year. That same $100 buys you around 20 gallons. And the house? $400,000 and climbing on 2 incomes, if you can find the deposit, which you can't, because the rent ate it. Here's the part that should genuinely make you stop. Adjust that 1962 petrol price for inflation, and it lands around $3.28 in today's money. Roughly what petrol costs now. So fuel in real terms barely moved. The thing that collapsed was never the price of a gallon. It was the size of a paycheck against the price of a life, the house. The single income, the idea that one ordinary job buys one ordinary future. That is the number no thermometer will show you, because they redefined the thermometers. So let me ask the question the scoreboard can't answer. Not whose numbers were better, whose economy was better to live in. In Kennedy's America, a factory wage bought a house, a car, and a stay-at-home parent, and the country was paying down its debt while it did it. The water was rough. Plenty of people were locked out of that deal entirely, and I'm not going to pretend the 60s were paradise. But the machine, for the ordinary worker who could get in, converted one lifetime of labor into one secure life. In Trump's America, the numbers look modern and managed. Low official unemployment, contained official inflation, a roaring stock market. And underneath it, two earners running flat out to rent a life their grandparents owned outright, on one income. The scoreboard says things are fine. The lived experience says something has come loose, and both of those can be true at once, because the scoreboard was rebuilt to say fine. So here's the reframe. The question was never JFK versus Trump. It was never really about two men at all. It's that we are using a 1962 scoreboard to referee a 2026 economy, and somewhere in between, the people keeping score quietly redrew every line. They made the inflation ruler shorter. They made the unemployment count narrower. They changed what the word growth even points at. And the genius of it, the truly elegant part, is that nobody had to lie. Every number is technically accurate. They just don't measure what you think they measure anymore. Kennedy didn't win because his economy was richer. He won because he was being graded on the honest version of the test. And if you think this is just an American problem, look again at where I'm standing. Remember that 2% target I opened with? New Zealand adopted it first, back in 1989. We invented the ruler, the exact ruler the Americans now use to flatter their own numbers. And then we imported everything else wholesale. Some of the most unaffordable housing on earth. An economy that runs on rising house prices instead of things we actually build. The same rebuild statistics, quietly telling us everything is fine. We adopted the entire American operating system. We just never got the one feature that makes it pay. America prints the currency the whole world is forced to hold. We don't. So we run the same rigged scoreboard. We take the same losses. And we don't even own the house. And from where I'm sitting, at the far end of the pipe, that's the part that should worry you most. Because I am not special. The whole world keeps score in these American numbers. Every pension, every mortgage, every price on every shelf, refereed by a scoreboard I now know is bent. Countries are listening. People are starting to notice. JFK won the contest.